Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. In this video, I want to give you an update on the chart of Tesla. Many of you have been asking me, hey, Alessio, can you give us an update on what's happening with Tesla here after this major big rally we saw on Tesla recently? And I know some of you have been asking me, hey, Alessio, surely you've been wrong on your analysis, the previous update you provided about Tesla. So guys, I want to talk about that because it's clear that in my previous analysis on Tesla, I was not expecting certain things to happen. But now that Tesla has, as a matter of fact, broken above this trend line and above the 200 simple moving average, we have to ask the question, the very important question, which is it correct that Tesla has now reversed trend? Has Tesla reversed from a downtrend or bear market to an uptrend, or indeed a bull market? And by the way, guys, that is what a lot of people out there right now are thinking. A lot of people right now, most folks right now are expecting or thinking that this break of the trend line resistance, that this huge surge and rally in the price of Tesla is proof, in their point of view, that Tesla has now reversed trend and now going back to new all-time highs towards 400 and 500. But the question we're going to ask in this video is, are they correct? Is that view, is that bullish view correct, or is something else going on? All right, guys, so I'm going to dig deep into the chart of Tesla in this particular video, and we're going to examine the chart of Tesla from an Elliott wave perspective. So I'm going to give you my higher probability wave counts and targets on Tesla stock in this particular video as well. Should be quite interesting, guys. Join me. Alright guys, welcome back. Before we dig into the charts, I just want to first of all give a huge mention to the boys today. As I'm sure you know, England playing versus Netherlands, if you're into football, that is. So I want to give you a huge shout out to our boys, England. Obviously, I'm supporting England. But of course, good luck to Netherlands as well. So I'll be watching both teams. Let the best team win. Alright guys, let's get back to the charts. Now, a lot of you have been commenting, saying, hey Alessio, can you please cover Tesla because surely you got this wrong. You're expecting the Tesla price to go lower to make new lows, but instead it's done the opposite. So surely you got this completely wrong. So let me just deal with this point. First of all, let me say that, as I'm sure you know, I've been covering the chart of Tesla now for over a year from the start of 2023. So, you know, you probably remember the January of 2023 was the first time, actually, I think it was December of 2022. January 2023 was the first time we covered Tesla. And as a matter of fact, you probably remember that we got bullish on Tesla. We got extremely bullish, looking for a bounce, a huge move to the upside on Tesla. And since then, we pretty much managed to cover and got most of the movements on Tesla correct. So most of my analysis in the past year or so has been more correct than incorrect on Tesla stock. Again, as I mentioned, I was extremely bullish on Tesla back in January of 2023 and expecting a big move up. We stayed bullish all the way to the summer of 2023 when we expected a pullback. So even though I have not been right every time on Tesla stock, nevertheless, the majority of the time I've been right than wrong on my analysis. And again, guys, let's remember, the markets are chaotic, non-linear, and unpredictable. So expecting the analyst to be right every single time is just impossible and also unreasonable. However, as I'm sure you know, I do my best to give you a solid and reliable analysis based on the data and the statistics and the evidence that I have in front of me on the charts. So the first thing, people have been saying to me, hey Alessio, you got this wrong because you're expecting the price of Tesla to go to make new lows, but instead Tesla has now broken out and actually broke the trend line resistance. So surely Tesla is not going to make new highs at 400 to perhaps 500. That is what some people are probably thinking right now. However, guys, I want to set the record straight on this one. First of all, this is a screenshot of my video, the last video I made about Tesla stock. Now, if you recall, in context, if you take my words in context, I did not say that Tesla stock was going to go down and make new lows anytime soon. In fact, as you can see from the screenshot, I was looking for a move lower for a C wave by the end of this year or in 2025. Notice where I put the C wave here. So I was looking for a C wave down at the start of 2025, or at the very least, perhaps by the end of this year. Now, it is true. I was not expecting a big rally and taking out of this trend line. That's true. Nevertheless, we have to think of this in context that I was not expecting price of Tesla to go down immediately, but in the longer term. That is very important. I also mentioned in that same video some weeks ago about Tesla stock that I had to see, first of all, confirmation by a break of 167. So if you watch the video all the way through to the end, you probably remember in this screenshot you can see here, I said Tesla has to first break 167 to increase the likelihood of a move lower. And that's important because I always wait for confirmation by a break of support to increase the likelihood of my main analysis. Tesla, of course, never broke 167 the confirmation point. So I'm mentioning this because I think some people who watched my previous video misunderstood me completely, and they thought I was expecting a drop lower to new lows very soon. That is not true at all. That was a long-term expectation for lower lows on Tesla. So I'm sure you're probably thinking, okay, fine, but Alessio, you still got it wrong because Tesla has broken above trend line and broken the 200 SMA. So therefore, we're now in a new uptrend, a new bull market to new highs, all-time highs near $400 to $500 on Tesla. All right, guys, all I would say to that is, guys, please, let's not become cowboys. Let's hold on to our horses and calm down for a minute, because actually you might be surprised by what I'm going to say in this video. First of all, it is true that I did not expect Tesla stock to move above the trendline resistance and the 200 SMA. So I was wrong about that. In my view at the time, about a month ago, my expectation was that even if Tesla rallied and went up higher, that this level, the 200 SMA and the trendline resistance, would eventually hold the price of Tesla. So my expectation was that these levels, for example, the trend line and the 200 SMA, could act as resistance, and I did not expect Tesla stock to break those levels with such force that it has done. So it's true, I was wrong about that. But nevertheless, guys, I want to explain to you that actually nothing much has changed about my expectation on Tesla stock. As I'm sure you know, Tesla stock has been in a downtrend, in a major bear market downtrend since 2021. Okay, many months ago, as you can see here. You can see that was the peak, and since then it's been a strong downtrend ever since. So is it likely, in your view, that Tesla stock can just reverse trend in 1 week or 2 weeks or in a month and a half after having been in a strong downtrend ever since? I think it's highly unlikely. So let's just calm down for a second. We have to remember that it takes time for the trend to reverse direction. And in fact, I'm going to explain to you that the trend, in my view, has still not changed, has not reversed. Number two, let me show you this. This is the stock market, the S&P 500. Notice the S&P 500 has managed to come across some major resistance levels. Now, I know it's above that resistance trend line, but let me say that I think these stock markets are about to go through a major correction. Not just the S&P, but also the NASDAQ. So both the S&P, in my view, and the NASDAQ, here's the NASDAQ right over here, they're coming to a point of exhaustion, a point of extreme overbought conditions where we could see a strong and significant drop in the major stock markets in the next few weeks and months. That is my higher probability, by the way. Now, I know the NASDAQ is above the trend line support, as you can see here. So it broke that trend line here, and it's above that level at about now. But I think in the next several weeks, we're going to see the NASDAQ below this trend line. So even though at the moment, as I'm making this video, the NASDAQ looks strong and is above that trend line resistance, nevertheless, the markets are extremely overbought and indeed overstretched and coming to a point of exhaustion. So I think in the next several weeks and months, we're going to see the NASDAQ below this trend line, and we're going to see a major correction and drop in the major stock markets. Every important piece of data supports this view. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, so what? What about Tesla? Well, the fact is, guys, if the stock markets go down, then Tesla stock is going to be dragged down with it. Because as I'm sure you know, when the big markets, when the major stock markets drop, they're going to pull down some of the big tech stocks with them. In this case, that would be Tesla. Not only that, guys, remember, we've just entered a recession in June. Important data, courtesy of Manuel Bly of the DowTheory.com. We've just had recent reports that the US has entered a long-term recession. And whenever this particular data has given us a recession signal, the stock markets have dropped in the next several months by about 12 months later by 16%. So ask yourself this question. How likely is it for Tesla stock to start a new bull market uptrend and start a brand new uptrend to new all-time highs towards $400 and $500 when the major stock markets are about to potentially enter a correction in the next several weeks and months, and when the economy is entering a recession? I think it's highly unlikely, guys. However, does this mean that Tesla stock cannot go higher, maybe to some potentially higher targets? Yes, it could, but in fact, that's what I want to talk about with you in this particular video. So I want to give you two highly probable wave counts and targets. The first thing I need to address in my video is why I do not think that we've started a brand new uptrend and a new bull market in Tesla towards 400 and 500 new all-time highs. So let me explain to you why I do not think that's happened, or that's what's happening here. So yes, I do understand. I can see obviously that Tesla stock has broken this downtrend line going back to several years ago. Now, normally in textbooks about technical analysis, they would say, yeah, that's a break of trend, so therefore we're now in a new uptrend. That's true. And also we're above the 200 SMA. That's true as well. However, guys, that is not the end of the story. It's not as simple as that. You see, first of all, let's just zoom in here. First, we have to mention the fact, the blatant obvious fact here, that this initial rally that started here from 2023 to the highs we made in the summer of last year. Look at that rally. How many waves was that? How many waves was that rally? So this was 1, 2, 3. 3 waves up. Okay, let me ask you this question. Do trends reverse with 3 waves? No, they do not, as I'm sure you know. If you take a look at this Elliott wave model, we can see that to get a high probability of a new trend reversal, of a brand new uptrend, the first wave of that uptrend must be composed of 5 waves. In other words, impulsive, like you can see here. Okay, so 5 waves up, and then followed by a wave 2 correction. By the way, the wave 2 correction must be corrective, as you can see here, ABC, and then followed by the third wave, which would then break out, and that would then point to much higher levels. Okay, but it's very important to appreciate that the first major rally must be impulsive, not corrective. In other words, must be 5 waves, not 3 waves. In fact, if you look at the chart of Tesla, you can see that that rally from 2023 was composed of 3 waves up, not 5 waves. And by the way, I know what some people are thinking. Some people who are not familiar with Elliott wave theory probably thinking, well, fine, this could be a 4th wave, and this could be the 5th wave going up higher. No, no, no. That is not correct. The 4th wave cannot overlap with waves 1 and 2. Okay, so that is highly unlikely. And by the way, I should say, last year my assumption was this was waves 1, 2, 3, and I thought as long as Tesla does not overlap with this level here, well, I thought this pullback could be a wave 4 correction. But unfortunately, because Tesla then overlapped with this waves 1 and 2, I had to abandon that view. So no, guys, I'm sorry. This cannot be waves 1, 2, and 3, and 4. No, it's not that at all. So highly unlikely. We have to first of all assume that the rally here was not 1, 2, 3, but ABC. I'm having this rally here, I'll do this in red again. I'm having this rally not as a 1, 2, 3, but as an ABC correction. Okay? And by the way, that's not all. If we zoom in here, here's some more bad news. As we can see, this rally this year from the lows of April, how many waves do we have to the upside here? We have 1, 2, 3. We don't have 5 waves up. We only have 3 waves up, as we can see here. Okay? So now look, if Tesla stock makes a corrective pullback to this trend line support in the next, let's say, for example, it comes to a resistance level at this region, okay, and pulls back correctively to this trend line, and then rallies higher, okay, then we'd have 5 waves up. But at the moment here, we don't have 5 waves up. We only have 3 waves up. Okay, so this breakout above the trend line also is corrective, which means what? Which means we're likely still dealing with a bear market rally, a corrective rally. As you can see here from this chart, listen, bear markets have rallies all the time, big rallies. As you can see here from this chart, rallies are corrective in bear markets, 3-wave structures. The declines are impulsive, but all rallies pretty much fail in bear markets. Rallies fail because they're corrective in nature. So we've got to be very careful here. Remember, the rally we have on Tesla stock right now is a 3-wave structure. And as you can see here, in bear markets, there are 3-wave structures too. And they predominantly fail and make new lows. Okay? And if you just go back to the chart of Tesla, let me zoom out a bit. And yeah, you can see, for example, that the prior rally, the previous rally that occurred last time around in 2022, that was also a 3-wave rally, 3-wave bounce. This is also a 3-wave bounce, ABC, okay, and then it dropped. Both times, by the way, they failed and dropped and made new lows. And by the way, this one also, as you can see here, this one also was a 3-wave rally, which also then eventually, as you can see, dropped. Now, the question is, okay, fine, but what is this structure that's likely forming here on Tesla? I mean, we are breaking the trend line, we are breaking resistance, but nevertheless, this is still a 3-wave rally. So this could still be an ABC rally. A wave, B wave, C wave, just like this one was. just like this previous rally was, again, ABC, a three-wave corrective rally. So the bottom line is, guys, that this is the number one reason. This is the number one reason why I do not think that Tesla is starting a brand new uptrend or bull market to new highs. In other words, I do not think that Tesla stock is forming a bull market or a new uptrend towards the 500 or even 400 levels. I think something else is happening here. So that means at the moment, this is not in my view, let me just put this out. This is not wave 1, 2, and 3 going to next year to 400 and 500. To my mind, I know some people are thinking this. Some people are thinking this 1, 2, and 3 going to new highs at $400 and $500 by next year. I don't think so. I think it's highly unlikely. Why? Because the initial bounce, the initial rally last year was composed of only 3 waves. It was corrective, not impulsive. Remember, guys, from Elliott wave theory, the first wave is composed of 5 waves, not 3 waves. Therefore, to my mind, this wave count is incorrect, wrong, highly improbable, unlikely. So what is the other possible scenario? And by the way, guys, I know some people are saying, but Alessio, surely this rally here has been very strong. I mean, look at the size of these rallies and bounces and moves. Let me first of all pour some cold water on that, because according to Mark Halbert of MarketWatch, and he rightly says, large daily gains occur more frequently during bear markets than bull markets. Okay, fine. Let's now zoom out a little bit. So what is the more likely wave count on Tesla stock, and what are the likely targets? What could happen this year and next year on Tesla stock if we're not starting a 1, 2, 3 brand new uptrend to 400 and 500 new all-time highs? Then, okay, what is going on here? All right, guys. So here's what I think is the more likely path for Tesla stock. Let's go back to that to the Elliott wave model. The first initial rally on Tesla was not impulsive, as we can see here. We did not get an impulsive rally like we see here. Okay, we had a 3-wave bounce or rally last year. That means the more likely scenario is that we're over here on the right-hand side. I think this is the potential levels we're at on Tesla stock, as you can see here. Notice that in a bear market structure, in a downtrend, this is what we usually get. Firstly, we get the A wave down, which is composed of A, B, C, a 3-wave substructure. Then we get a B wave bounce, which is also composed of A, B, C, to be then followed by a strong, significant crash and downtrend to new lows. The question is, where are we in this structure? And I think this is the levels. These are the levels we're at. So this is where I'm going to focus. So let me show you this wave count. I call this the red count. Again, this was our A wave down, B wave bounce, and we know B wave bounces are composed of 3 subwaves, and that this is simply a waves 1 and 2 within a larger degree C wave, eventually by next year to new lows. Okay, that means in this particular red wave count, what we're seeing is this was our first wave down to 2024, and this rally here is simply a wave 2 ABC correction, which by the way has reached the 1/6 golden ratio extensions and also the 78.6% retracements. So 265 here, as you can see, is a level we've now bounced back to. Key levels of resistance at the 1/6 extension and the 78.6% retracement of the prior decline. Okay, so that's one possible scenario, the red wave count, that this is simply waves 1 and 2, and that means what? That means if Tesla were now to drop below this trend line, if Tesla were to roll over from anywhere from 264 to 275, 278, if we were to roll over from here and drop, let's say drop down below the trend line and below 200, that would actually open the door for a major 3rd wave decline for the C wave. And by the way, much lower levels. And I know some of you probably thinking, well, hang on, aren't C waves composed of 5 waves? Yes, this would be 1, 2, 3 of a 5-wave move eventually to much lower levels on Tesla. Okay, that's one possible scenario. Let's go back to our chart. That would mean, again, Tesla would be here. Okay, in other words, completing wave 2, as I showed. In other words, waves 1 and 2, completing the wave 2. And as long as it stays below the highs it made last year, then if we drop lower, breaking support, that would be the C wave. In other words, I beg your pardon, third wave of the C wave to much lower levels. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's one possible scenario. But there is actually, I think, another possibility or probability. Let me show you the second wave count, the yellow count. The yellow count, which I think some of you will like, and again, it's not about whether you're liking it or not, but again, the markets don't care whether we like these structures or not. All I'm saying is this is another probability. The other probable path for Tesla stock, which some people might appreciate, is that, again, this was our A wave down, okay, and that this entire rally is a B wave, a large B wave, and as we know, B waves are composed of 3 smaller waves. So in other words, this is our A wave, the rally we had last year, the B wave, the drop we had from 2023 to 2024, and this rally is simply the C wave of that large degree B wave, okay? In other words, what we see here, again, let me just do this one more time. A wave, B wave, C wave, and this C wave would take us up to about 338, 345. In other words, this potential C wave could be taking us towards the 324, 338 to 345 region, maybe even towards the 362 region here. But in other words, this rally, if it continues, as long as Tesla stock, in other words, as long as Tesla can stay above this region between about 228 to about 200, so as long as it stays above the trend line and about the 200 level, then it's possible that it could be going in the next several months towards 324, 338, and $345, maybe even to 360 potentially, but eventually to roll over. In other words, that would be a large B wave, and then a C wave at some point to start later this year, maybe towards November, October, maybe later, a C wave decline, perhaps to start some point maybe this year or next year towards much lower levels, okay, towards below the 100 levels, below 138 to 100. Notice, by the way, even in this wave count, the longer term scenario, the longer term expectation is much lower, it's bearish. So medium term bullish, medium term the next several months bullish, but in the next several years going much lower. Okay. By the way, in this particular wave count, if this wave count is correct, that means the next pullback on Tesla, the next pullback, I mean, Tesla is about here as I'm making this video. It's about 264, 265 here? Yeah, there it is. So it's about here right now, testing resistance. That means the next pullback, and by the way, a pullback is likely because Tesla is extremely overbought. As long as the next pullback, let me just get my pen here, as long as the next pullback from this region, so provided the next pullback is corrective and stays above this trend line, it must stay ideally above 228 or above 200 ideally, and then let's say it makes another rally here, okay, and takes out the prior high, whatever prior high it formed here, that could be a continuation of C wave, the B wave, towards the 338 to 345 levels there to complete the C wave, and then for an eventual big drop to occur maybe sometime this year or next year towards much lower levels. Okay. In other words, going back to that Elliott wave chart, let's go back to the Elliott wave model. So in this particular scenario, that means we're probably here. All right. I've actually shown this in a bit more detail. That means that we're likely in this second scenario in the third wave of the C wave of the B wave. I'm hoping that's very clear. Okay. So just to be clear, that was a large A wave decline we had from 2021 to 2023. Then we're likely in a B wave bounce, okay, a large B wave bounce taking us towards 345 to 338. And that means in this B wave bounce, in this large B wave bounce, we've completed waves A and B, and we're in the C wave. Within the C wave, we're probably in the third wave of that C wave, of that large B wave. And when this B wave completes, in other words, when the C wave of B completes, then we get a large decline taking us to much lower levels. If I just show you that one more time on the chart, there it is. So according to this scenario, as you can see here, again, A, B, C. Again, C waves are composed of 5 waves. So, in other words, we could likely be heading towards that 338, 345 region there before finally completing and then making significantly lower levels. In other words, A wave down, B wave, and then a C wave to significantly lower levels. That, by the way, is also a probability we have to consider. By the way, I should say this, in case you're thinking, okay, you've given us 2 different wave counts, which of these do you think is more likely? Well, here's what I would say. I think both of them are probabilities we have to take seriously, both the red count and the yellow count. But here's what I would say. Wait for the next pullback. So we know there's a pullback coming. All right, guys? I mean, look at this. Look at this massive rally in the price of Tesla stock. Let's wait for the next pullback. And the reason why the pullback is coming is because the market is extremely overbought based on the RSI 34 setting. So RSI is right now extremely overbought at the 34 setting, as you can see there. Look at the last time it was this overbought. There it is. Let me just pull this back a bit. So you can see the previous times when Tesla stock was this overbought was here and here. And when this occurred, we saw significant, we saw significant pullbacks start pretty much here, as you can see there, and also here. So we're coming to a point where a pullback could begin on Tesla stock. All right, guys, let me just zoom in again. So let's wait for that next pullback on Tesla stock. If that next pullback from within this region, let's say that the next pullback is corrective and holds, let's say it holds that 228 level there, this trend line, or 228, 230 level there, and then makes another rally that actually increases, in other words, impulsive rally, as long as it holds the support, here, then if it starts to bounce from here and the bounce is impulsive, yeah, that could actually indicate that we're moving towards the C wave of B at the 338, I beg your pardon, 338 to 345 to 360 levels there. But if the next drop happens to be impulsive, if we see an impulsive drop that breaks down support and breaks down 200, then no. That would mean we're in a red wave count to significantly lower levels. So wait for the next drop, the next pullback. Let's see what kind of a pullback we're going to get. All right, guys? Will it hold a trend line? So the question is, will the next pullback hold this trend line support, and will it hold 200? If it cannot hold these levels, then that means we're in the red wave count, this one. So if the next pullback does not hold, if the next pullback on Tesla does not hold 228 and 200, then very likely we could be heading to the third wave, the C wave, about the 100 levels in the next several months by the end of this year. On the other hand, if the next pullback is corrective, if it's corrective, 3-wave drop or overlapping, as long as it holds the support region of 228 and 200, then if it holds the support and then bounces impulsively, that means we could continue the rally towards 324, 338, and 345 to complete the B wave. And when the B wave completes, then start a major decline, a major C wave decline in sometime next year or the end of this year to much lower levels. Okay, in other words, A, B, C. Okay, so notice that, by the way, guys, none of these scenarios assume that we're in a bull market to $500 or $400. By the way, in case you're wondering, this B wave could potentially go to 400 and test the prior highs. Yes, it could do that. But at the moment, I have to assume that the more likelihood is for the B wave to complete somewhere in this region, between 338 to 345 to 360, as more likely. All right, guys, so there's our potential wave counts, as I explained. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think it's this yellow count for an extended B wave to here, to 338, 345? Or do you think we're in the red wave count to potentially complete the wave 2 and then third wave to much lower levels? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you very much indeed, guys. Hope this video helps. I look forward to seeing the next video update. Bye for now.